Alright, welcome back to Mingus's backside. Keep it moving, Mingus. There he goes, there he goes. Alright, welcome back to our journey through some Japanese whiskies by Drinks by the Dram, which is just about the only way we can afford Japanese whiskey anymore. But some of these are more affordable than not, and this is probably one of them. What have we got this time?
This is one you'll see on the shelves in a lot of bottle stores, whiskey stores especially. This is Nikka coffee grain whiskey. It's a grain whiskey, predominantly corn, that's been through a coffee still, which is a type of like column still, isn't it? Continuous coffee?
It's a continuous still, yeah, but a more of a slightly older one named for Mr. Coffey, who was an Irishman. I forget his first name, who invented continuous distilling with the still that bears his name, but the tech has moved on a wee bit since then, so it's now unusual to see coffee stills typically. So, and yeah, all grain, so single grain, and they say predominantly corn as well. So that's unusual.
It's been through a coffee still, been matured almost exclusively in ex-bourbon barrels, but sometimes it looks like they've been broken down, possibly recharred. I'll describe the process as per Nikka's rather excellent website. It is old casks such as refilled, remade, and recharred. Originally made from American oak to deliver the sweet and mellow flavours of coffee distillates.
Okay, so they've sort of zhuzhed a few back up to give them a bit more life, and then they've applied one of their less illustrious whiskies to them.
The tasting notes card from Drinks by the Dram promises a nose of bourbon-like vanilla and corn, with a herbal hint of chamomile. A palate which is sweet and fruity, of melon, grapefruit, thick syrup, balanced by crunchy biscuits and French vanilla, which sounds excellent. And a finish of corn notes, sweet and vibrant, that last.
Well, it's certainly grain whiskey on the nose, that's for sure. Yeah. Pretty unmistakable.
Quite bourbony, but more of a corn-heavy bourbons. I can't think of any names off the top of my head, but...
Yeah, and it's sweet. It's got that fudgy kind of a...
That richer, deeper and darker than a straight corn whiskey.
And it's quite full. It's quite a punchy nose, and I guess 45%, that's kind of starting to get up there, so one should expect nothing less. But not mega complex, just like, all single grains, grain whiskey generally, not going to really expand into all sorts of different flavours, but there's good Moorish quality to that. Certainly makes me want to drink it. Yummy.
Nice immediate prickle of heat there. It quickly goes into a corn whiskey and corn flake sweetness. Good grains, a lot of corn. Hints of bourbon sweetness and spices. It is. I'm going to go back for another sip at full strength.
Yeah, it is quite classically grain whiskey in the Scotch bottle, which you either like or you don't.
I'm getting big American energy off this. This would be a wonderful substitute for an American whiskey, either on its own or in any of those classic cocktails.
Yeah, well, because you'd have to imagine a bourbon, I guess, but take away a lot of the spice and then put in a lot more of those sort of confected sweetness, so Russian fudge. So a bit of like white jelly bean. Quite a lot of. There's a lactose quality to it. There's quite a creamy sweetness in here. I could think of vanilla ice cream kind of a thing going on.
Honestly, the tasting notes we've been offered are holding up quite well, even down to that hint of chamomile. There's a little bit of a floral, slightly bitter property there, just on the edge, just enough to balance things, not have it just be a sweet popcorn melange the whole way.
I do like this, and again, it will come down to whether your thoughts on grain whiskey. I like grain whiskey just fine. I'm not always in the mood for it, but this is probably something I'd drink with ice.
Yeah, I'd feel it would hold that quite well, especially on a warm day like we're enjoying here.
I feel that would add a freshness, because what can happen with these grain whiskies is they can just get the sweetness can sort of hang about, and it can start to become a bit overbearing, a bit cloying, because they are, for better or worse, they're fairly one note. They're pretty narrow in terms of what they bring, and it is all sweetness all the time, all confectionery, ice creamy goodness, and that can kind of get up on the palate a wee bit. And a bit of ice to quicken it up, I think, freshen it up be what this one is asking for, and you wouldn't be losing a great deal because the risk always with ice is that you destroy the complexity of the whiskey and dumb it down. But being a pretty simple, not too many moving parts in here, I think it would survive a cube just fine.
Yeah.
I don't have enough to apply to a cube, so I'll just have to simulate that in the brain.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to let that cube dissolve too far though. This one doesn't take
no.
too much water; it needs to stay fairly strong. I'm discovering. But this would hold up well on its own or in a mix. This is a perfect whiskey for both.
I like this. This is a no-nonsense kind of a dram, and I think it's quite lucky that I've got a palate for grain, but if I ended up with this whiskey and I didn't like grain whiskey, I would have been a bit of an idiot because it makes it fairly plain what you're buying, right? You don't buy something that said coffee grain by accident. If anything, you give that bottle double scrutiny to make sure it's not some sort of weird coffee-based distillate, which hasn't happened yet, but now that I've said this, probably will within the next 5 years.
Plus, I still got the difference in spelling to save us from the accidental coffee cross-contamination.
So scoring this as someone who's into, who's picking up what it's putting down, I really do like this, and I'll budge a little bit further up to an 86 on this one. It is good stuff. What do you think?
I'm also enjoying it. It is a wildly accessible and probably very diverse whiskey, and have it straight up, put it into all your classic cocktails, whether they're ones that would normally be Scotch based or bourbon based or rye based even. This would be a good substitute for all, and because of just how welcoming and well rounded it is, it's an 83 for me.
Okay, well, Dave's coming back up, back in the points.
Yes.
So we'll see where this ride goes. All right, stick around, we'll be right back with the next one. Slandra, who can say what it will be, although it's going to be Nikka.
Into single malt territory.
Finally. All right, exciting times. So stick around, we'll be right back.